Without further ado, here is Handley, and I think we're going to roll a video.
Time. How is everyone?
Yes!
So today we're going to talk about brand voice and why I believe that brand voice is the new logo. But this is a special talk because it's annotated. Just annotated. Sworn, jittering. Hand unfurling creakily, dissonant, gibbering, wet, squelching, squelching, wetly, tentacles roiling wetly, the sweetest, sloppiest, sloshy, slapping footsteps you've ever freaking heard. Now, I want you all to tell me about what show, but before you do, creakily placed moist palms. Unnecessarily prolonged pause. And, okay, go. What show is this?
Stranger Things!
Yes! So the subtitles that I just shared with you are from Stranger Things Season 4, which dropped on Netflix this past summer and spring. Now, Stranger Things didn't invent subtitles, but the show did take them to a new level. And people noticed that the Stranger Things subtitles weren't like your average run-of-the-mill subtitles. In fact, the subtitles themselves got almost as much love as the show did. People said, turn them on. If you're not watching with subtitles turned on, what are you doing? Turn them on. They recognized that a writer, and not a robot, was writing these. But my favorite, if only for the wordplay, because we're content people here, is this one. Stranger Things subtitles have no chill. And look at that hashtag. Netflix and no chill.
So smart.
Entertainment sites rank the subtitles from the favorite to the least favorite. And a writer at Mashable even went so far as to chart the amount of wet squelching in Season 4. This is for all the MOPS people in the room. He crunched the data. He presented a PowerPoint. This is the number of wets dashboard. He also charted moist, which we all know is everyone's most hated word. Is it not?
Yes.
We all hate moist. Moist and moistly appear 1.89 times per episode in Season 4. The subtitles created so much buzz that one media trade site called the creative Stranger Things subtitles a revolution. They called it a revolution, and they detailed their new popularity, especially with younger audiences. Now, captions are critical for the 37.5 million of U.S. adults who have some trouble hearing, or either deaf or hard of hearing. But increasingly younger audiences, according to this news article, who may not be deaf or hard of hearing, are actually turning them on too and listening. Now, I watch watch everything with captions turned on. So basically what I'm saying is, I'm also Gen Z. And when I meet a Gen Z person, I'm like, oh my God, do you watch TV with captions turned on? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, me too! We're obsessed with the same people, basically. And by the way, we often use closed captioning and subtitles interchangeably. I've actually done it already this morning. But there is a difference. Subtitles show dialogue, like usually for audiences who don't speak the native language. What Stranger Things is actually doing is closed captioning, which in addition to dialogue shares audio, music, everything wet and squelchy and voice to give you a truly immersive and wet experience. So, again, Stranger Things took captioning to a new level, but they didn't actually invent captioning. That honor actually goes to this gal. I know! It was developed by public television, WGBH, from my hometown in Boston. Woo! I know, where it was actually used consistently for the first time in the 1972 season of The French Chef with the iconic, two hands iconic Julia.
Yes.
So yeah, captions have been around for decades, for years and years and years. But here's why they're actually newly important, I believe, for all of us here at Content Marketing World. Because most captions do not have a recognizable voice. Right? They aren't celebrated because they are very basic. What Stranger Things captions actually did is illustrate the power of brand voice. You would never, ever confuse a Stranger Things wet caption for one describing action or dialogue in any other show. The moist, wet, writhing, squelching voice in the Stranger Things subtitles could only come from Stranger Things, right? They carved out a recognizable brand voice in a really unique area that, by the way, most people completely would ignore, or most shows would ignore. Voice is how your writing, or any of your content sounds to others when they read or when they experience it. Not just when they are reading text, but when they experience, say, a video that you produce as well. How does it sound in their head? Like, what do you sound like? What messages is it carrying to your audience? But in content marketing, brand voice is how buyers relate to and identify and recognize us. Said another way, if you cover up the logo on any of your content assets, would others know it's you? Do you sound different? And so I believe that the challenge for all of us, are we fully embracing this Stranger Things opportunity? Because here's the deal, voice carries the personality of your brand when you cannot be there in person, you can't see somebody face to face. It's a voice that our audiences can start to build a relationship with. And right now, that is crucial. In 2022 and heading into 2023, it is crucial. Now, we've known that voice and personality builds trust and affinity, all the things that Robert was talking about this morning, since the big cat influencer, told us that Kellogg's is
Great!
Yes, they are. A little lackluster, but it's okay.
Great!
Yes, thank you. And since Flo became the voice of no BS, right, from Progressive, very no-nonsense, Flo, and also since Geico found Martin in a terrarium casting call and cast him as the voice and the personality of Geico. Whoops. I forgot to do the subtitle voice, so I'm going to go back for a second. I didn't know his name was Martin. Did you guys know his name was Martin? No. Yeah, I didn't either. If you took anything out of this presentation today, it's Martin. So in 2022, as I said, I think that a warm, relatable brand voice is increasingly crucial. It's the way that we need to start developing a relationship with our audiences, especially in this world of content abundance that Robert also detailed. Every piece of content that we produce, everything that we publish, everything that we produce is an opportunity to create what I call an it's me moment. It's a moment where your buyer sees themselves in your content, in your copy, in whatever it is that you're producing. And that's why you see so many brands right now partnering with creators on social media, like the way that Nerf did with 22-year-old Sophie Lightning. They plucked her out of the University of Maine and they installed her as the Nerf CTTO, the Chief TikTok Officer. Sophie is literally the voice of Nerf, and she speaks to the Nerf audience directly with advice on things like the best gun for Nerf battles. And she also delivers like CTTO updates, like what it's like to work at Nerf, and how she's teaching Nerf executives to speak Gen Z. Well, she's 22. Is that alpha?
Yeah.
Is she alpha? Anybody?
Gen Z.
You're gonna leave me hanging up here, not knowing?
Still Gen Z.
It's still Gen Z. All right, thank you. So we know that every company needs a memorable, relatable voice. But what's more, I believe that right now, today, every marketer also needs a memorable, relatable voice. And I believe something more important, that every one of us has that opportunity to develop our own style, our own voice, our own writing personality, our own content personality that's as memorable as Stranger Things. Each of us needs to individually embrace our Stranger Things opportunity, in other words, and not just about the brands. Now, I know you're thinking, but we have a style guide. Style guides are great. I am a fan of style guides. They are incredibly useful as a starting point. But the problem is that most of us create style guides and then we put them on a metaphorical shelf somewhere and we don't access them as much as we can. Or we could. We don't update them either. Or I had a conversation with my friend Paula in the hallway yesterday. And she was talking about, one of her challenges is actually encouraging the engineers who are her subject matter experts who create content on behalf of her brand to write in a way that's less, I don't know, like engineering-y. She didn't use that word, but in my head I was like, engineering-y. I got you. It's important right now, I think, because of the way that our content continues to evolve and the voice of our brands continues to evolve. Our content changes and evolves. It's not static. The content that we're creating today isn't exactly the same as the content that we created a year ago. And the content that we created a year from now is not the same as it was, or as it is right now. Now, why is that? Because I don't have time to get into the whole thing, but audience expectations evolve, our programs mature, world events like, say, a global pandemic or some momentum behind social movements, all of these things mean that our content continues to grow and reflect current realities, or it should, right? And that means that our brand voice changes as well. It changes to reflect current realities. Things are a lot looser now than they were when I was first on this stage 12 years ago. And so I believe that the more that we, as writers, as content creators, as content leaders, embrace and evolve our own voices, the better that we can shape and steward brand voice, and the better that we can steward content creators within our own organizations. And there's another reason why I think that it is so key to think about our own brand voice and what we bring to this conversation. There's another reason why I think it's so crucial right now and in the coming years, and that's because I'm looking at Chris Penn right here, AI. Because AI writing platforms and tools are increasingly powerful. They are increasingly going to start to become valuable to us in our jobs. They allow us to do our jobs with greater speed and greater accuracy. They're increasingly writing rough drafts for us, for example, or they're writing copy, or they're telling us what they think about that headline that we just wrote. But the technology doesn't do the work for us, right? Or at least it should not. It should not do the work for us. The opportunity with AI writing actually comes within us, right? It's with us. When we are strong writers and communicators, then we can use AI tools and AI platforms as powerful assistants. In other words, do not be the Roomba puppy. Just don't just like coast around letting AI run all of our content programs. They're not designed to do that, and that's not what we want either as creatives and as professionals. So our opportunity is not just to follow a style guide or just sort of line up behind it, but to instead lead its evolution.
There's that warm crackle of opportunity in the room. Oh my God, I'm so out of breath right now. You can hear my really breathy and
So I experienced how a voice changes and evolves recently in my own work. So almost exactly a year ago, this month, I signed a contract to update the second edition of my last book, Everybody Writes, which produced the second edition. Thank you. I published Everybody Writes 8 years ago in 2014, when I really was a Gen Z. And I released it actually 8 years ago here also at Content Marketing World 2014, which is crazy to think about. So, yeah, honestly, I thought it was going to be a piece of cake. I was like, the book is already a bestseller. It's got 965 5-star reviews on Amazon. And I know this seems like a flex. It's not a flex. It's not a flex. I'm explaining, but I thought that writing a second edition would be easy. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to give it a quick refresh. I'm just going to maybe dust off some things and like pump up some pillows on the couch. Maybe let a Roomba run around carpeting, just kind of let it go. Maybe spray some Febreze, like around, just kind of freshen it, And then I went to the OG version on Amazon as part of my research to identify what actually needs updating here. Here's the thing, guys. I never read reviews.
Totally lying. I read reviews.
But then I came across this one from 2020. And I thought, 3 stars. Okay, let's find out why. I read the review. It says, I'm a big fan of Ann Handley's bi-weekly newsletter, which is written in an energetic style with so many linguistic surprises. I'm like, oh, that's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So, the style of this book struck me as too buttoned down, dutiful, and devoid of Anne's personality. The advice is okay, but I found it hard to get through. I know, it's so painful.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Oh, there's Paula. She's engineering, yeah. You know what really stung on this one, though? One person! Are you here? Another thing I want to call out, though, his name. I don't know what kind of parent names their child experienced seminar leader. How do you name a baby experienced? Well, okay, you do you, Mr. and Mrs. Seminar leader. Congrats on your son, by the way. Grows up to be mean. But here's the thing. I suspected, actually I knew, in my heart, that Mr. Experienced Seminar Leader was right. And I thought, you know what, maybe I do need to reconsider my Roomba and my Febreze approach, right, to renovating this 8-year-old book. Mr. Experienced Seminar Leader also made me think about why my voice had changed. What happened in those 8 years? I didn't realize how much I almost didn't recognize the voice in that OG version of the book. So what's changed over 8 years? And it made me think about how it evolved and what I can maybe teach all of you about voice. So I'm going to leave you today with a peek into an alternate universe. All right?
Yes.
Yes. Imagine, actually, walk with me. Imagine an alternate universe where each one of us is recognizable by our distinct voice, by the way we show up, by the way we do the work. Again, in writing, but in all of our content. That if you cover up the logo on anything that you or your team or your company publishes or produces, it's easily traced to you. It's like, I know who that is. It's Land O'Lakes. And isn't their content better than anybody else's?
Oh, yeah.
I've been holding on to that. I actually said that joke to her backstage, and she was like, you got butter puns all the time, don't you? She's like, yeah. She just kind of backed away. Anyway, so to get there, so we're going to enter this alternate universe. To get there, we're going to take a journey into the upside down pyramid of personality. It starts in the forest of enchantment. And at the end of our journey, we are going to emerge as stronger communicators that can write and publish as recognizably as the Stranger Things subtitled crew. Okay? So let's go. The Forest of Enchantment. The Forest of Enchantment is a magical land where you find your mentors. Who are the people who truly make your heart sing? Like, who are those writers or content creators, dead or alive, who can call you to a higher place because they inspire you with their work and because they engage you when you access their work? Who are those people? The advice we often hear when you think about becoming a stronger communicator, a stronger writer, is advice like this. If you want to develop as a writer, read, just read everything. Like, what? Like, what am I supposed to read? Like, thanks for nothing, Mr. Cryptic, you know? Pamphlets, cereal boxes, like what exactly? And more than that, like, read who? And read how? Like, how are we supposed to do this? So let's start with the who. Who beckons you into that forest? Ask yourself, whose voice, when you access it, enchants you? Because writers are shaped by other writers. Writers are shaped by other writers. A few years ago, I decided to find the who could really be my Stranger Things opportunity voice coach, or maybe a Forest of Enchantment ranger. I don't know. That's a real mixed metaphor there. Sorry about that. So I chose David Sedaris. I love David Sedaris' voice. If you don't know his work, he is a humorist, he's an essayist, he's published a dozen collections of essays. And his work his observations are acute and hilarious, but also like very soulful as well. And his voice enchants me. I love the cadence of his sentences, the way that he tells a story and leads the audience along, especially his memorable metaphors, his word choice, like all of it. So yes, I chose you. I chose David. But enchantment can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be an essayist, it doesn't have to be a novelist, it doesn't even really have to be a writer of books. Brands can beckon too. It doesn't have to be precious and literary. And in fact, the less that we think about our writing voice as precious and literary, I think the more real and raw and accessible it becomes. So the point, instead of thinking about like, oh, I should look back on all the books that I've read the past few years and find that voice, instead, watch for those moments of enchantment every single day. Because so many of us in this room are doing great work. I see so much great work online all the time, and I look for those moments where I'm like, God, that is so good. That is so great. Morning Bird does a great job with this. They publish a daily newsletter. And this was in a recent issue of theirs. They said, you get $1,000 for every person you annoy. What's the fastest way to become a billionaire? It's the way they open their newsletter. They often will just sort of ask a playful question. at the beginning, and here were the answers. Here are a few ideas, they said. Remove the unsubscribe button from every marketing email. So relatable for all of us. Taking a billboard on the 405 with a list of major TV movie characters who die. Or, my favorite, buy a Super Bowl and repeat. Oh, God. Repeat. Sweet Lord, the word moist. I mean, you just can't make that up, you know? I thought that voice call that would also
Get a bigger laugh.
oh, snort, my friend. At least somebody laughed. So SalesFeed is a brand new content effort by Vineyard, who was here at the event. It launched in September of 2021. The SalesFeed content strategy is to offer comedy and tips and resources that would help B2B salespeople just basically level up their game, get ahead. They wanted a significant social presence, right? They knew that that was going to be like key to their content strategy, very much top of the funnel, that ultimately would convert newsletter subscribers, like all of it embracing that Stranger Things opportunity though. They didn't want it to sound like any other B2B sales content effort, right? So they really wanted to embrace that Stranger Things opportunity that we have. The first step was not to look at other B2B sales content or even to look at any content marketing. Instead, to step into a forest of enchantment. Who is the sales feed forest ranger? Whose voice beckoned Tyler Lassard, who is the CMO of Vineyard? It's this guy. SalesFeed's content lead, Tyler, was enchanted with Jimmy Donaldson, a YouTuber and personality better known as Mr. Beast. He's like, that's our guy. Mr. Beast is credited with so much on YouTube, but his main YouTube channel, his biggest calling card, I guess, is that he is the 5th most subscribed channel on YouTube. And here's what his content looks like. I'm going to play you just a little clip so you can get a vibe for Mr. Beast if you don't know his work.
I just hit 100 million subscribers on YouTube, and I thought, what better way to celebrate than to buy a giant private island and then fly out 100 random subscribers to compete for it. This is by far the craziest video we've ever filmed, and it goes live Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Or comment on the video wins $10,000.
So lots of like kind of chaos, right? Lots of like jump cuts, there's like words flying at you. There's a lot going on in there in like that 60-second video. Tyler is enchanted with a few things though about Mr. Beast's voice and approach, but especially Mr. Beast himself. Viewers build a relationship with Jimmy. They build a relationship with the character of Mr. Beast that Jimmy has created. And again, a reminder, the video starts with a script, right? Writing is the foundation. It's all about figuring out how are we going to say something, and then in what container do we say it. So the next stop in our alternate universe is the Swamp of Rage. Personally love this one. So you have your forest ranger as a guide in the upside down world here. The next stop is the Swamp of Rage. The Swamp of Rage is the place where you start to dig a little deeper into the content that you are enchanted by. You start to dig a little bit deeper into the words. Why? Why does this work? Or, which often happens for me, why does this piss me off so much? Like, it's so good. Why can't I write like that? Do you ever feel that way?
Yes.
All the time. It's like I read something and I'm like, God, I'm either really motivated by it, like, I can do that. I feel really motivated by it. Or I'm just, like, really depressed. I just will never be that good. So that's where we live in the Swamp of Rage. We read it and we try to figure out, why does this really engage us, or why does it not? I think that reading is as important to the writing process as writing itself, but how you read is key. So look strategically at the choices a writer makes as you read. Why did they choose to do this? Slow things down. Like, slow down when you're reading a little bit. See if you can discern some of those choices. So one approach that really worked for me was, as I mentioned, David Sedaris is my guy, right? So I went back to the very beginning of David Sedaris' books just about a year ago, and I read all of his work in order. So I could literally see how he evolved. I could literally trace the evolution of his voice from his very first book that he published all the way through to his most recent work, which was published this year. We sometimes treat reading as a kind of arms race. You know what I mean? The point is to get through it as fast as possible. And apps like Goodreads encourage us to do that. It's like, commit, how many books will you read this year? 75? Great! You're gonna be awesome! And they challenge us on volume, but I think that's the wrong way to think about reading. I think it's much more useful to think about slowing down, figuring out why somebody makes the choices that they make in their work and applying it to your own work. Figuring out, what can I learn from this? Staying in that swamp of rage. SalesFeed did this with Mr. Beast. They really studied, how does he do this? And Tyler told me that when he really dug into the Mr. Beast content, it started to evolve the way that he communicated, even on social, the way he communicated on LinkedIn, for example. He rage-consumed hours of Mr. Beast content until he felt ready to enter the Hall of Mimic. The Hall of Mimic is the third stop in the upside-down pyramid, and it's where, in fact, we think about mimicking the people who we are so enchanted by. How would David Sedaris approach this? How would Mr. Beast, and then start to apply it? Now, when I talk about mimicking, I'm not talking about copying, but instead, I'm talking about learning. Think about how babies learn to speak, how they learn to communicate. What do? They mimic. My friend Jess sent me this video recently. This is her with her 7-month-old daughter, Gemma. Aww. Is that so sweet? No? So this is exactly how we learn too, by literally saying it out loud. And that's why publishing is so important to developing your voice as well. You can't just keep it all to yourself and try to evolve your voice, you've got to let it out. Literally start to speak by publishing. This has been a game changer for me, and this is really the biggest thing that's happened over the 8 years since the first edition. I started publishing an email newsletter every other week. Some of you might subscribe to it. Woo! Yeah, like one or two of you. Thank you. And every other week, I talk about writing, I talk about marketing and content, things that are important to me. But it seems that I'm giving something to the audience, but here's the secret. I actually get more out of this than I give, because I've learned a lot about what engages an audience. What about my voice can I pull out to engage an audience further? How can I be more comfortable? How can I actually publish in a way that feels connected to the people I care about reaching? SalesFeed hired Will Aiken, this guy here, to essentially mimic and evolve the SalesFeed voice. Tyler was very strategic in hiring Will, because you can see the Mr. Beast inspiration that he took here.
If I do not find somebody strong, I'll blow up into smithereens and scream my tiny symphony all up and down the city street while trying to put my mind at ease, like finishing this melody. This feels like a necessity, so this could be the death of me, or maybe just a better me. Now coming with the melodies and take a shot at Hennessy.
So good, right? So great. I just had to count down. The fourth stop on our upside down pyramid of personality is the reflecting pool. What worked, what didn't, and what can we learn from that in terms of relatability and memorability in voice? Not just about how something performed from a marketing standpoint, but also just about these other more elusive qualities. I think about this as optimizing for voice is optimizing for crush versus crickets. Like, what resonates and why? And to really think about this, I think we need to evolve the metrics that we use when we measure our content. Like, a like on social or a share or a click-through rate on email, like that's important to all of us so we keep our jobs and continue to produce all that we produce. Like, all that is awesome, but I think we need to partner those metrics with a sort of metric buddy, right? A sort of metrics bestie. I do this on my own newsletter. It's like, yeah, I look at open rates and all that stuff and click-through rates, but more than that, I look at this metric which I completely made up just for me. It's called the OWB, or the Open to Write Back rate. What does that mean? It means how many people are inspired to actually reach back to me, connect with me, and say that was meaningful or that was important or I really enjoyed that. And of course, that means you've got to have some kind of consistent publishing program. This is the sales feed funnel. At the top, there's a sort of TikTok approach. In the middle there's your sort of YouTube and LinkedIn presence that they have, and their conversion is subscribes. But here's what they really also look at. Here's the metric that they buddy up, especially in awareness in the top. It's called the TT rate. They told me about this, and I said, oh, that's the TT rate. And they're like, what? I said, I just made that one up too. What this means is the TT rate is how often do salespeople, tag others on their teams because it's an it's me moment. They go, this is us. This is exactly it. All right, our last stop here is the secret chamber of clams. The secret chamber of clams. In comedy writing, clams are considered kind of overused jokes. They're like the unfunny, like hackneyed jokes that nobody thinks are really funny anymore. And in comedy writing rooms, they avoid the clams. They say, stay away from the clams. But I actually kind of love the idea of making clams part of your own company because it is sort of a secret language. It's sort of an insider vibe. So what's your recognizable language? Like, what's your point of view? What's your consistent point of view? What are the phrases or the ideas that unite your own audiences? What aligns and defines? For me, it's that we are all writers. And I want to empower all of us to be stronger, better, more joyful writers. And I try to coach my audience on how do we actually do that and celebrate writing. On SalesFeed, salespeople are freaking unsung heroes of the organization. They also troll marketing a little bit because okay, so it's just how they approach things. There's a teeny clip of an example of that.
Marketing! Hey Jessica, just a heads up, if you don't get 40,000 likes on that next Instagram post, you're not dead. Here we go.
You're at a pep. Did you hear the end of that? No. Yeah? Okay, I'll just make sure. I had trouble hearing it. It wasn't captioned. Okay. That's just me. Anyway, this was very, very clammy. So many people were like, heck yeah, lots of TT action going on here. Incredible. I pitched this as a kind of alternate universe, right? But you know what? Honestly, it's not. It's not really an alternate universe at all. Because writing is not a precious thing that we should feel intimidated by or that we have to go on a special journey for. Communicating is literally what we do. It's our jobs. Or said another way, what most people would ignore? Subtitles. What is Netflix being celebrated for with Stranger Things? Subtitles and captions written by humans. And that tells us something, doesn't it? At least it tells me something. It means that clever writers, clever artists, like you and me, who write with creativity, who write with craft, and who really care, truly elevate a project from expected to completely unexpected. From kind of ho-hum to something really special. From monster enters the room to when things will change. Very different. Said another way, would anybody be talking about Stranger Things subtitles without the writer? A guy by the name of Jeff T., I am not protecting his identity. He's protecting his own identity. He's not on social. He's not on LinkedIn. This is literally what shows up when you try to find Jeff T. He won't even give his last name, although I'm pretty sure it's tentacles. Because Stranger Things. He's so unassuming. He is so behind the scenes, but we would not be celebrating this were it not for Jeff T. And what's more is that would I be re-releasing Everybody Writes completely as a new book without Mr. Experienced Seminar Leader and my newly improved voice and my awareness of it? No, I would not. Which is why I spent time in the pool of reflection, swimming around and really thinking about it. Thinking about crickets versus crush, thinking about voice, and I realized that I owed Mr. Seminar Leader a massive thank you. There we go. So I clicked It's the only way that I can thank you. Listen, each of us is capable of a memorable, relatable voice. We are all writers. We are all communicators. And we need to really embrace the Stranger Things opportunity that we have individually because it makes our brands, our companies stronger. The truth is, it makes us happier as well. You all make the difference. You make all the difference. Thank you so much. Do you like free things?
Yeah!
Do you like being the first to have a hot new product?
Yes!
Heck yes! So, meet me right now in the writer.com booth just outside these doors because they are going to be gifting you a copy of my brand new book, Handley CMW. The book is not out yet, so here's how this is going to work. You're going to come to writer.com, which, by the way, Writer is an AI writing and editing platform. It's fantastic for teams. It's geared toward the enterprise. And more than that, there's really, really great people. So please come by and say hello to them. I am going to be signing book plates to each one of you with your names, and then Writer is going to ship you the book. So it's kind of like a virtual book signing, except I'm here and the book is not. Holy ish, no way. Thank you. I love you guys so much. Really.